And then he was sort of making a weird thing about it, just like this Canadian man Bruce did, where it's like, yeah, we're going to help you out, but bzz, just stay in line to keep your mouth shut. So basically, I did the same thing I did with Bruce and tried to play dumb, which is what I did when I was first raped. Yeah, after I said no so many times, I then went into pretending that it wasn't happening, or pretending I just wanted this to happen because I couldn't process the idea that someone was violating me. So I did the same thing with being tortured by strangers. I played dumb, like they knew and I knew that I had just been tortured. And I pretended like I hadn't noticed. It hadn't happened at all. And I hadn't noticed some of the things that they were doing that were already tipping me off to the fact that they knew and were involved in some way. So I played dumb. And in the whole idea of playing dumb, then all of a sudden we're laughing, having a great time, and all of a sudden he acted like he started to like me. Maybe he was playing a game too. Maybe he always hated me. But then he did buy me a wine cooler. I wanted to relax one time, and he supplied. Like he did buy a few snacks and a few different things to eat and that kind of thing. But he never really bought like a lunch or anything that was very healthful. It was just kind of like I was eating kind of junk food. And then it was like he would buy me junk food or alcohol. And the first time after I had some alcohol, we were intimate. And I always have thought it was consensual because maybe didn't have that much. But I guess, yeah, it was probably another situation that I could say that it's possible I was taken advantage of. Again, by another federal person. And I know that he wasn't drunk because by that time I just didn't take very much for me. And some of these guys, you know, he's like 6 foot something and very large and Irish Catholic. And, you know, some of them, they can hold their own on the liquor after a while. They just kind of get used to it. I mean, he didn't seem to be an alcoholic at all, but he definitely drank. So then the other thing that he did that scared me was that he drove really fast around really fast corners, which was something that bothered me because I'd been in a car accident with the sensation of the car rolling, and that feeling of the car starting to tip made me scared. And he was taking corners really fast, and I asked him to slow down, and he did a couple times, but he didn't all the time. But I tried to ignore that. And as I say, I mean, it was like we were pals or something. And I had my act going, and then I almost think I fooled myself into believing in everything. Into believing, and then one time that I did think something, the next time I thought something was strange, was that we were parked at a truck stop, and it was at this truck stop where he had to get my license or my face and have me registered as being a passenger in his truck for his company. That's what he said. So it took this long time, and he had to get it authorized. And while we were waiting there, I was sitting there, and there was someone parked directly across from us in an orange and black Schneider truck, semi-truck. And they looked at me and like they hated me. And I didn't know if they were just sitting there in the Schneider truck because they knew I knew about Krista Schneider. And I didn't know if the Schneiders of that trucking company had anything to do with Krista Schneider's family, because she had said that there were so many powerful connections. I didn't know, but I knew that those people really hated me. And he knew who they were. So then he had everything authorized and kept driving towards the East Coast. And then he said that he was stopping at this one place. And I don't think it was as far as I thought he was going to go. But he said he was going to stop there, and I told him, I told him that I was planning to go to Georgia. So he let me out, and I was walking away and everything, and said thank you. Oh, the other thing that we did is we stopped at one point from New Mexico, we stopped in Las Vegas and walked around at a casino there. And then he was dropping me off, and I was walking away. I'd already said goodbye, and everything had been kind of wrapped up nicely or whatever, and I had his phone number and said I'd call, and it was very friendly. And like I said, we were laughing almost the entire time. And then I had this, I turned around and looked back at him for some reason. And when I did, I saw this expression on his face that surprised me, because I suddenly saw him. He was staring at me, and he was looking at me like he didn't like me, and he thought since my back was turned, he didn't have to put on an act anymore. And it was just sort of a narrowed eyes, hard, locked jaw kind of an expression. And I saw that and I kind of got chills a little bit. I thought, what is that about? Not once the entire time that he was driving or anything, anytime I was with him, did he look like that or let down his guard so that I saw that expression. And then he kind of changed his expression and waved or whatever, and I did. But I just remember, I never forgot that, because I was really surprised to see that on his face. And that's when I thought, he never liked me. Was this like maybe an Ellen act? So then I was at this station, and there was a different guy there who said that he could buy me a ticket to Georgia. I went through Washington, D.C., and then I went on to Georgia. And I thanked him. I don't know why this man did that. For whatever reason that he did, that was very kind. I don't know that he'll ever remember me or see these videos, or if he's still alive. That was nice. And I didn't really even have to, I wasn't in a position where I was having to beg for that or anything. I was just talking to him, and he sort of offered, from what I remember. And so then that, I should say too, that truck driver that took me, he was from Boston, Massachusetts. He worked on computers. He was a computer person. He was supposedly retired Army, but I think that he was still with the Army. And he was a military police person in the Army. So he was in the police side of the military while he was in the Army. That's what he told me. And as I said, the entire time he didn't really buy me anything to eat. I think he knew I had only a couple $100s. He asked me how much I had, and I said I only had a little bit. And I think that he wanted me to spend it. I think he wanted me to spend some of my money on food for myself. And I didn't have money to spend, because I didn't know what sort of situation I'd be in when I got over to the East Coast. So I didn't He had different like chips and Hershey chocolate bars and a little bit of candy. That was it. And so I just, munched on that stuff. Then when I got on the bus to go to Georgia, I had, I guess, a different Catholic couple getting on the bus with me, but I didn't know that they knew anything about me, or maybe knew people who knew me. I was really being followed no matter where I went. And obviously if I've got microchips in my body, that's not going to be hard to do. I mean, here I thought that, I was keeping my head down, incognito in some places and everything, and that was never the case. I couldn't have found a place to hide no matter where I went. They would find me and always tracked me and always knew where I was. And when I was then on the bus, I didn't really talk to too many people. I was tired. And there was a layover in Washington, D.C., and it was such a long layover. It was many hours or half a day or something like that. And I thought, this is such an incredibly long layover. May as well walk around and look at things. And the last time that I had been to Washington, D.C. had been in 1995 after my surgery with my Grandma Davis and my friend Monica Allen. And I really had liked Washington, D.C. right from the start. I liked the layout of the town. I hadn't been to a lot of, I guess, East Coast or older towns, because I lived on the Pacific Northwest. And the Pacific Northwest is beautiful. And the terrain here and the air is amazing. But for a city, I'd never been to a city with some cobblestone paths. And they had, instead of having just sort of, straight-lined streets and dissecting into squares and blocks and that kind of thing, very organized, which is very nice about some of the towns out here too, is that they are so well plotted and organized. They're very alphabetical and A to Z and 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing too. It's not hard to get lost. I mean, it is hard to get lost a lot of times over here. On the East Coast, although I'd been a nanny, I hadn't really seen a lot of cities. And Washington, D.C. was, I thought, a quaint, larger city where they had lots of kind of different angles and diagonals and intersections, little roundabout things, and certain streets where it seemed like the sidewalks were coming in this direction and then going out in different ways, and lots of different perspectives. And then the architecture was a little different, so it was kind of interesting to me. I liked it. And there were trees. There were, of course, in D.C., around the White House, a lot of lawn, green lawn, and a lot of trees. So I thought it was very pretty, and it was interesting to me, sort of stimulating. So I thought I'd get out and look around, and then the people who'd been on the bus with me struck up conversation a little bit, and then invited me to dinner with them, which was very nice of them to do. And I never really understood, though, their full motives.